Hey everyone, it's Miss Jennifer. As promised, I am back with an updated content video from my Arise versus Liveops video. If you have not seen that video, it contains all the basic fundamentals for both companies, and I'll have the link in the comments section. However, there have been some changes to Liveops that have occurred since I made that video. And I wanted to give you guys an update just so you'll have the most accurate information possible for Liveops. I do not have that information for Arise at this time. So this video is exclusively about Liveops changes. There has been a few changes. One of them is really big. So I definitely want to make sure you guys have the most updated content available. Okay, so first things first, please note that any information that I give you in this video is what is true as of February 1st, 2023, okay? So just be mindful. I don't know if you're watching this video 2 weeks from now or 2 years from now, but this is what's accurate as of February 2023, okay? So startup costs for Liveops, there is a background check fee that is required up front. The good thing is it is not as much as it used to be. It is currently $24.99 to pay for your background check. Previously, it was way more. I'm talking about, I think it used to be about $65. So they have definitely reduced the cost of the background check fee, which is really good. That is the only cost you should be paying up front. There are no additional fees to get started with Liveops outside of the background check fee. Now, once you have selected a project to work on and you've moved forward with that project and they've accepted you into that project, you may have some additional cost or expenses just depending on what you have available. Now, some projects might require, for example, you have dual monitors and those monitors have to be 22 inches or 20 inches, whatever the criteria is. So an additional cost for you could be that you have to purchase a second monitor if that's not something you have available. Also, depending on what they require to take calls or chats, what type of phone line they require, depending on whether or not it's something you already have, you may have to spring for a phone line. I know a lot of the calls and projects now are available through the system or computer itself. Whereas previously everything required a landline. You had to have a landline. There has been some changes and that is not required on all projects anymore. But before you get into a project, they will let you know what all of the requirements is as far as equipment. And they actually do, depending on the project, they will run a tech check on your equipment. So make sure you're testing from the computer you're planning on using. That's something they didn't do before, or at least it wasn't as specific. So that is another change, that these technology checks are occurring through a third party that was not happening before. And before we go forward, please remember that with Liveops, you are an independent contractor and not an employee. I say that to say, be mindful, nothing is paid for. You are fronting the cost for everything. The only time you will get paid is for the actual service provided. You will not be getting paid for anything else, and you will not get reimbursed for anything. So if you have to get a second monitor, you're going to eat the cost, and hopefully you'll make that back providing services. But because you are an independent contractor, remember at tax time, that is something you can write off as a deduction, because that was a cost that you had to pay and you are not an employee. So it was a business cost for you. So jumping straight into the biggest change, the training process. This is the biggest change that has occurred for the basic structure of Liveops since my last video. And be mindful before you move any forward with this video. This is an updated video. So if you don't know anything about Liveops, you need to go and watch my Arise versus Liveops video, because this is an updated video. So I'm not giving you all of the information on Liveops, just the updates. Okay, so the training process, let me give you a quick before and current. Okay, so before you did training modules, they were self-paced. So everything was self-paced learning. You logged in to do the trainings when you wanted to. You moved on through the sections at your own pace, whether you wanted to spend 30 minutes a day or several hours a day. It was all up to you. There was no moderator. There was nobody telling you when to log on, when you had to be there for training. There was no classroom setting. And the training was 100% unpaid. So it was at your leisure, at your time, at your expense as far as time. But there was no set time. Now, however, the training is more what I would say hybrid. You still have those training modules or e-courses, however you want to describe them, that you do at a self-paced rate. I say self-paced, but even those are on a schedule because you might be required to have them done within 48 hours, where before you might have had a week or whatever to get them done. You know, the longer you took, that was the longer it was going to be before you could start making money, but hey, that was on you. Now you have a training class and it is a set time. There is no workaround. So if they say, hey, training's going to be every day at 10 a.m. for 2 hours a day, Monday through Friday for 3 weeks, you have to be there for those 2 hours for 3 weeks in that setting. Now it might be 2 hours class time, and then they say, hey guys, go do the e-modules, and you need to have those done by Wednesday, and it's Monday at the time. But you do not have a say-so in when you get to show up for those scheduled class times. Some of them may be 4 hours a day, so be aware of that. So be mindful that before you get started, that you might be doing 4 hours of training a day, 5 days a week for 4 weeks. So that's 20 hours a week for a month, 100% unpaid. Okay, you're not being paid to be in these training classes. So with that, that might be fine for someone who is unemployed or maybe just a stay-at-home dad or mom. That might work. But if you are someone who has a job already and you're just looking to make a little side money, it might not be the best situation for you because it might cost you too much to give up 20 hours a week of your time and not be paid for it. That is 100% up to you. You know what you're capable of, or you know what you need. That might be a sacrifice that you just have to do. But I do want you guys to be aware that it will be almost like having a part-time job and not being paid for it for those first 3 or 4 weeks. Now, each project is different. So maybe you have something where you don't have to do that type of training. But I know some of the bigger projects with some of the bigger and more popular brands, you will have that type of training, and no, you will not be paid for your time. However, they may have incentives, and by incentives, I mean they might say, hey, if you go through the training and once you complete the training, you work at least 20 hours servicing our calls or servicing our chats, you will be paid a $250 bonus. Okay. Again, that's something you have to decide whether it's worth it, but at least there is some type of incentive if you go through with the whole training and then move forward with servicing the client for their calls or chats. This is the biggest change you will see. If you've worked for them before, there's some changes in the platform and the systems themselves. However, if this will be your first time going into Liveops, none of that is going to make a difference because you don't know what their platforms look like in the past, so there's no need to waste time talking about that. And even though I went over how you get paid in the original video, and there's really not much change to it, I did want to just include this because everybody wants to know about the most important part, which is getting paid. So it's the same pay structure as previous years. You get paid per minute, whether you're talking on the phones or if you're doing chat, talking to customers through a chat platform. It's the same thing. You get paid per minute. So if the project offers, let's just say it's, and I'm just pulling a number out there, 40 cents a minute. Okay, you will get paid 40 cents per minute that you're on the phone, or 40 cents per minute that you are engaged in a chat with the customer. Again, Liveops does 30-minute scheduling blocks. So if you are scheduling yourself to work, let's say for 3 hours straight, and out of those 3 hours, you're talking for a total of 2 hours. Out of the 3 hours, you will get paid that 40 cent or 25 cent or 30 cent per minute, whatever the program pays for those 2 hours. So for the hour that you did not receive calls or chats, you're not getting paid for it. So you will only be, no matter how long you're sitting there, you're only getting paid when you're actively working on a call or chat. So be mindful of that as well, that you are getting paid per minute and not by the hour. Some projects might have potential bonus earnings for different things. If you work during certain peak volume times, or if you service this many calls, then they might have some extra bonus or incentive, or they might like, okay, this pays 30 cents a minute, but during these peak times, we're going to pay 35 cents a minute if you work during these hours. Minimum hours per week and month obligations. Every project has a certain amount of hours you are required to work every single week or every single month. It may be, hey, you need to work at least 15 hours a week on this project to stay active. If you don't do that, then after X amount of days or X amount of months, then you'll be released from the project if you don't do that. Or it could be, hey, you're required to work 65 hours a month. We don't care when you work those 65 hours in a month. Just make sure you have them. It could be 40 hours. Again, it will vary versus the project. But you have to get those done. And some of them may require that, hey, 10 hours of those 70 hours have to be on weekends. You will have all that information up front before you move forward with training. So this is the end of my updates. This video has ran a little longer than I expected it to, but I want it to be clear and direct in all of the information that I give to you guys in here. If you have any questions that I can answer, leave them in the comment section and I will answer them to the best of my ability. I cannot give you the names of the clients because it's proprietary information. However, here are the most recent changes that have occurred, and I think these are the most important changes.